Good afternoon. Are we all ready for a racist slot? This was news to me, if I'm being completely honest. Hi, my name is Alastair. I'm part of the Innovation Committee. I was asked to help in terms of a panel today to talk about adaptability and innovation. And we've put together quite an amazing panel today with some very interesting people that are doing really some quite amazing things. First of all, could I get the panel to introduce yourselves first? So, Marie? Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. So my name is Marie Hamilton. I work for Microsoft. I lead our place-based strategy across the Greater Manchester region. So, as you're probably aware, we're quite a large organisation. So it's how do we work with the region to try and better the region. I also look after North West Social Impact Team, so our volunteers that we have in the region, and I do Social Mobility UK for Microsoft.
Hi, I'm Adam Dickinson. I'm one of the co-founders of Rezzil, which is an XR sports rehabilitation and training company. But we also have consumer, so B2B, B2C. We're on platforms such as Meta, PlayStation, and we basically go right across the range of all the sports from F1 to Premier League, who they're a partner with us.
Yeah, everybody, well done for staying on the Friday afternoon. It's very sunny out there, but yeah. I'm Hitomi. I work for Sony. I do product management and also product marketing as well for the solutions and platform for the media and entertainment industry, like news broadcasters and the production companies.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrew Finlayson. For my team that are here, also known as Finny, because you might not know me by my full name. I am the Accenture Northwest lead. So I lead, we've got main office here in Manchester, but we also have presence of all of our team around the Northwest, including me from Blackpool and other people from Liverpool. So we really are around the Northwest, lots of different locations.
Fabulous. I think in terms of, for me, when we look at things like innovation and adaptability, these are very small words to describe massive concepts, really, when you get into it. And I think when we think about innovation specifically, there's the concept, if you want to make things, you've got to break things with that. And I suppose to the panel, start with Adam, it's kind of, what does that mean to you and what does innovation mean to you?
I think it means very different things to very different companies. So, you know, it's very difficult for large companies to turn anything around. And I think we're a big believer in not saying we're innovative for the sake of it. I think as any creative or innovative kind of person, I think you're constantly faced with a crossroads, where there's a fear door on that side and there's a not sure how that's going to work out, but let's try it kind of road. And I think you're not guaranteed success. You're going to be heading down a road where you're basically collecting coins. At some point you might then flip them coins, and if enough turn over to heads, you're going to have a good result. But I think the best thing someone said to me years ago was, don't innovate for the sake of doing it. It's got to be a purpose. And you know, in our case, we did just go, let's do something cool in VR with feet. You know, we could see a gap where cognitive development in sport and football was very underserved. So where everyone was looking to height and strength in football, we wanted to see if we could analyse and get into and see the brain, what was going on in the brain. I was looking at Paul Scholes might not get picked, but he's got the brain. So I think innovation, it's got to have a purpose, and you know, it's also you've got to be risky.
Yes, I think risky is an interesting word for people. And from Microsoft perspective, it's the same question to you guys, really.
So I'm not sure you do always have to break things, to be honest with you. I think, you know, similar to what Adam was said, we always start with the why. Why are we innovating? So, you know, what is the business case? And then when we do look for a solution, we find a solution, then we need to make sure that we bring everybody with us. So it's really important that you know why you're doing something, but actually all of the people that you're expecting to make a change, because innovation normally doesn't include, it's not always about breaking things, but it is always about change. And if you're going to change something, then you need to bring everybody that's going to have to change along with you on that journey.
So it is, rather than breaking things, could it be tinkering with things?
It is tinkering with things. And it's interesting as well, because I think we're at a crossroads at the moment as well from a technology point of view. And this is a tech conference in that, you know, when I look at digital transformation that has always been, it has been very much, you know, you need to go from state A to state B. And there's going to be some significant change in there. So you're going to have to adapt and change the way that you're working in order to get back to, because you can't continue to do things in the way you did with state A.
Yes.
But actually, as you bring things like AI into the mix, you don't have to change everything. You can stay with state A and actually have AI as a helper alongside.
So things can almost run in parallel,
could run
rather than just binary A or B.
Absolutely. In certain use
Right.
cases, it's always about the use case.
This is the racy stuff, isn't it?
This is the racy stuff, yeah.
This is where we're going to get
Radical.
people going. Wow, I'm sweating already. Andrew, it's probably the same question to yourself.
I suppose just to build on what we discussed, I think you've got to be, again, breaking things, not so much on that. I've worked in health and life sciences for a while. We don't try and break things, but you can create safe environments to test, and that's the key for it, just a safe environment to test. The bit I'd add to the kind of the mindset of innovation is thinking about horizons or thinking about your distance into the future. So there's no point in really trying lots of tools if you want to do it in 3 years' time, because maybe those software packages, those developments will change. So, but you might want to start looking at what the users may need in 2 to 3 years' time, or what the users may need in 5 to 10 years' time. And certainly some of the work I've done, we've had to think that far ahead. We've been thinking about 10 years, not for the work, the software, the aspects, but what is going to happen. So for me, innovation is tied to time.
Just on that, because I think there's the point in terms of that longer term vision of things. Certainly kind of my experience when I've been in-house and we've looked at technology deployment, it's been that sense of we're doing this one piece of we've got this one piece of technology, or we've got this one solution, but it's actually kind of how this is, it's almost saying this is the foundation and these are the kind of the roots and branches that are going to grow as a consequence.
Yeah, and it's to consider those, because as we consider, you don't have to be too forward-thinking to think of the future. It's okay. You can think a few years in the future. But what's going to happen when maybe it gets old? What's going to happen when it scales big? What's going to happen? So just really put some thought into what the future is going to be. And then when you are working to innovation, maybe you'll feel better if you're only innovating for the next 6 months, because you know that actually that's going to change. So it's okay. You don't have to be too judgmental on yourself in the short term.
Okay.
Interesting, because AI is a good example for that, because in the media industry, nobody have worked out what AI could do really on the in the commercial terms, what's useful, because it's such a new technology. Some people feel it's a threat, right? And how to handle that in terms of the media. For example, I can give you an example in the news industry. AI can help journalists write the news script, for example, but what if it's a fake news? What if the authenticity is not right? So there's always within the organization, there's people who are pro using this tool and who are against using tools. So how are you going to manage that, and how to, I guess, essentially you need to do the change management and how to try and incorporate all those opinions to move forward, because you can't stay still and you can't just win the business like that. So you need to change, but the speed of the change doesn't happen at the same, speed at multiple, based on the location and industry. It's different in the media sector as well, where Adam works. I think in the gaming industry, that's mostly forefront of the new technology, and lots of changes happen there. At the same time, the news organization, for example, they've been there for 50, 60, 70 years. They have already built up lots of technology, and they have lots of old stuff that they have. So how are they going to change the mindset of those people? How to adopt the new technology? Those are the things that we're looking at in the different places and the different pace. So that's something that needs to be, in your mind when you're talking about the innovation.
I was just going to say, I think it's the, that talking about that pace, and obviously you can see there's 4 different people here, and with that, there's 4 different risk profiles in innovation, and some of the decisions we made, and some of the stuff which we see as risky, probably isn't to other people, but some of the risks we took early days now are coming back in broadcast. So we were talking about this previously, and how we're at a point where games is always about 2 or 3 years ahead from what's usually happening in other industries, because they can be a bit riskier, and we're doing things like looking at, can we put live matches, because we take the data from games, into Fortnite Island. Can you watch NBA games there? And those are things that are, you would have thought unimaginable, but now you can get to the point with AI where we can see a vision where people can curate their own broadcast at home and watch their own game.
And I think it's risk versus reward as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
100%.
in your industry, you need to move at that kind of pace. You need those innovations coming in so that you can stay ahead of the game. You were talking about health and life sciences. You don't want to take the same level of risk within health and life sciences. You want to make sure that you understand and weigh those up. I think it's very much about being intentional. So understanding where you're trying to get to and then plotting a route to get there. But it's continuous as well. It's ongoing changes. It's continuous improvement, really.
And I think, yes, just on, because we talked to in the week and we talked about media and there's one publication that I know that are using AI at the moment to generate news articles, and they are specifically employing AI-led journalists. And within that, there's clearly people that feel that's an abomination because it's affecting what they do. But there's this also piece where kind of the change is coming, whether they like it or not. And I suppose the question is like, what do you need to do to sit alongside that? Because there's the risk profile, and you've got a choice of whether you get dragged to it or you kind of go willingly at the same time.
You have to adapt like any other tool. You know, like we have over the years working in game industry, we've adapted to every different tool. I think you've not got to look at replacing, you've got to look at removing some of the things that you don't want to do. So, for example, if we were looking at a deck and costing a new game, you know, for release in December, we'd put the cost analysis through AI. We'd see what headcount we need to get to. But equally, it puts in the hands of designers that haven't got artistic ability. They can get very quick visuals together for the deck, which then they can share with the team and the designers that then can get us to a point quicker. We can decide to ditch stuff quicker. We can fail faster. If we're failing faster, we're learning faster.
And also, I think that from my perspective, the people's mindset, your team's mindset is really important. Are your team ready to adapt to change? Are they open-minded enough to try the new tool? AI is not going to go away, right? Whether you take that as a threat and ignore it until it replaces your job, or are you going to try and use it by yourself so that you can leverage it and take the benefit out of this new tool?
And I think tool's actually the key word. So when we look at AI and we start to think what it does, and you were talking there about media articles, you wouldn't leave an AI to actually write a media article for you. You might get it to start your media article. You might get it to, you know, look through lots of information and decide what it thinks might be the key bits, but you would always work alongside it. So, you know, within Microsoft, I think most people are aware of Microsoft Copilot, and the Copilot is the key bit, really. It's a helper. It's not replacing a human being. It's just working alongside.
You're reaching forward on.
We're just getting comfortable.
Oh, wait.
Apologies.
No, you can feel free to get involved. Because I think with that is that, and I think that's part of the issue. I think there's two issues. One is kind of understanding actually what the technology is. I think there's a huge education piece. And again, with the great respect to solicitors in this room as well, who I do take swipes at on a regular basis, getting a solicitor to actually talk to another partner at time is seen as innovation, in my experience. It's how do we then, in sectors such as that, where it's very institutional and actually getting that, the thought of actually using technology to facilitate and to support conversations, I suppose it's how do we approach that? And with the work that you guys do, it's...
Yeah, well, I've got quite a few stories on that, which is, we didn't plan this, but it's good. It's good. So, yeah, I've got, well, for me, I suppose, how do you get people comfortable, right? So we all need to get people comfortable with our technology and our solutions. And I suppose very recently, we were doing a project which just needed people to be educated. And very simple. We would get, normally, you would get somebody in a room, you would record them with a number of scripts, and you'd push the scripts out. Challenge was, as I saw it, it was just one person in a room, and it doesn't matter what that person is, that person doesn't represent everybody, because there's only one person that we used to film. Well, actually using synthesized humans, which is an AI solution, there's quite a few out there, and I know there's always nefarious things you can do with synthesized humans, but this was a good use case. We managed to create 30 different personalities that represented everybody that we were going to be talking to. It was 30 different accents which represented the people in the team. So you could, if you did the whole training course, it just felt like you were there. Someone there was representing you. As soon as you've done something like that, and then you said that is artificial intelligence, that is AI, that is innovation anyway. That is innovation, that is AI, and that you all liked it, and suddenly there's a lot more buy-in.
Yeah.
So you need to look for the small win, and that wasn't a big piece of hefty work, but that created a wave of trust. So it's trying to look for, and all leaders, anyone that's working in technology, we want people to buy into what we do. Yeah. Frankly, you know, we've done some real stuff behind the scenes, and we go, please buy into it. It's going to work. We want this to help you in some way, or your business or your recovery in some way. And I think those little steps, often relating to training, or can get companies and individuals on board really quickly. Because not everyone knows that synthesized humans are real. You can actually do this work. So, you know, gets you on board very quickly, because the assumption of technology is often very dark very, very soon.
I think trust is right, the really interesting word there, because I think it is an issue of trust and actually kind of feeling that you can give yourself over to that environment or give yourself over to that tool. I think with the spaces that you create as well is that football, in my mind, I think more principally of footballers in asking a footballer to put on a VR headset and do some training in that space.
I think the thing that we knew from the start was that we had to have absolutely zero errors, and we had to have it completely convincing in terms of the physics, the sound, the experience, not so much the graphics actually, but it had to feel like you were kicking a football when you were in that headset, because you can't have a £100 million player, you know, a World Cup winner come in and go, it's rubbish. I know.
Or worse to that effect.
Or worse to that effect, yeah.
Yes.
But I think, you know, everything that we do, I think there's common themes. You know, there's a tool, but it's not a magic bullet. AI is not a magic bullet. If you put garbage in, you will get garbage out. The prompt management is key. Yeah. You know, if you don't manage what you're putting in and give the correct examples, and you just go, make me a business plan, it will just give you a business plan for an ice cream van. You know, you need to give examples of this is a good example, that is a bad example. And it can be really, really effective. You know, we can populate scripts, you know, like you were saying with what you've been doing with synthesized. But that kind of stuff's been there with MetaHumans in games for probably about 7 or 8 years. Mm-hmm. And it's only just coming into, you know, what everyone's using day to day. And everyone's getting the benefits. So I think the more that there's a whole generation that already trusts this technology. I think it's the rest of us that need to get more comfortable with it by using it.
Mm-hmm. I suppose from a Microsoft perspective in terms of trust, obviously you're trusted implicitly as a brand, but as you add new functions in and kind of people go, oh crikey, what's that? You know, have you approached that as a business yourselves, or kind of how do you take people on that journey?
So I think education is key, and actually from a Microsoft point of view, we do have quite a big we're probably one of the biggest learning providers, not just in the UK, but globally. So we are going out there at the moment. We've got a commitment to try and upskill people within the UK, 1 million people in the first instance, so that they understand what AI is. And following this, we will leave some information with Pro Manchester so that you can access some of that content. Because I think sometimes once you understand the way that the AI is working, it actually helps you to understand what the benefits are and how it's being delivered. Yeah. So you take, say, something like ChatGPT, which I guess is where most people currently intersect with AI or Bing Chat or Copilot. You know, you get the feeling that the AI is actually talking to you, when actually all it's doing is looking at probability. If this is the prompt, then this is probably what the best answer is, which is why you get things like hallucinations. So it's knowing that the human is always in charge and is always, you know, in control of what's coming out of there.
Okay. I suppose it's some question to you, Hitomi, in terms of that Sony's got such a wide breadth of products to look at and in terms of engage people. It's kind of, how do you have that conversation with people to kind of bring them along with the new products and the new things you bring to the market?
I think, as I said, like education and also training and the familiarity is the key. It's a natural instinct of human. If you encounter something new, you just halt and think what's going on, and some people decide not to try that out. So how to, you know, make it familiar to your team, to your, you know, people at the company. That's something that we are trying to do. Sometimes it's not possible to provide the tool to everyone, but at the same time you can do, let's say, like a Friday trainings, lunchtime trainings, just get people on board and listen to what's going on in the market, what's going on at the forefront of the technology innovation, and then let them start thinking about it, right? They don't have to start using it immediately, but if they hear about it, they'll start thinking about it, and that's how, like, you know, you make the incremental changes to your people, and that's what I'm trying to do to see, you know, people keep them open-minded.
I'm conscious we've spoken quite a lot about Copilot and ChatGPT. I suppose, Andrew, in your world, in terms of sort of the Accenture, because you're a broad church in terms of...
We are.
You're a very broad church. Discussed this before. Some things I didn't even realise. And I suppose it's that AI is probably a shorthand now for kind of any digital tool that can make your life easier. And I suppose it's kind of...
Yeah.
How do we need to kind of refocus the mind, and what should we be considering when we look at this?
Well, here we are on stage talking about AI, and I would like to, if I could, I would eliminate AI from the conversation in many
Fabulous, yes.
But we're not going to. It's going to be around, it's a cultural zeitgeist. We're going to be talking about it for a few years. But I suppose, talking about the range. So Accenture overall, one of the projects that we've had was creating the battles in the Game of Thrones. Okay, so creating characters, and yes, using AI. There are extra characters. I mean, that is how the battles are formed. They're formed using gaming techniques and often using the same software for gaming. So we do all that. And then we also process, and one thing that certainly gave me a real inspiration moment recently, we process all the letters for a government. So it's processing the letters, it's doing an OCR, which they've been doing for years, but it's using AI to summarise and look for thematic chances of there being a need more urgently than another letter. Because you might have a letter coming in for a change of address, you may have a letter coming in asking for some help that might be really, really urgent. So the spread of just even those two examples, I mean, look, battles of Game of Thrones and letters are completely separate. So to me, it was, in all cases, what was the challenge we were looking to tackle? What's the latest technology available that we could use? And then for both those projects, actually, same sort of thing on the time horizon. What's next after what we've currently got available, and what should we then plan for? Because some projects, when you make a commitment to a series like Game of Thrones, you need to commit to all the
I was going to
series.
say, you're not a one and done.
Or other series are available. We do other things, Star Trek Battles, other things as well. But basically, you need to know what's coming to plan. But we make commitments case by case. So again, a bit of a range discussion there, which was kind of part of your motive for the question.
I think as well, you know, and AI is all, I mean, every conversation at the moment is about AI. And when we think about AI, you know, you mentioned there the Game of Thrones, but actually looking at some of the good things that AI is doing that are making a real difference in society as well. So, for example, we've been doing some work with some hospitals that are using AI on breast cancer scanning, and they're actually able to, they work alongside a doctor, so again, not replacing the doctor, the AI and the doctor work together, but they're actually able to detect tumours that are much smaller than a doctor would normally be able to, which means that women therefore only have to have keyhole surgery to remove those rather than lots of chemotherapy. So it's understanding the real benefits that some of this technology can bring to you, not just around the large language models, but some of the other things that it's doing for computer vision. There's also lots of other examples around accessibility, helping blind people to be able to know what's in the environment, for example, from an AI perspective. So there's some really interesting applications that will make a real difference at a societal level.
Society, yeah, definitely.
I think you know, there's still things that it can't do.
Yep.
Still things it can do and it won't do. A few years ago, we did as one of our kind of side pet projects, we did a mobile game called The Impossible Line, and it was #1 for a while. And what we did was, in cancer research, they found that it needs to be actually analysed by a person, to looking at the patterns in the genomes. It couldn't, however they tried to rewrite programs. So basically, we just put it in as an interstitial and said, you'll get some free coins for this game if you analyse this. And we managed to crunch through, I think, 22 years worth of data in the first weekend with the people that we had. But again, they'd looked at lots of different computer vision ways of doing it, and they just couldn't do it. The eye was spotting the patterns, and the computer wasn't.
Okay. And I suppose we've got all these things that are coming in, and we've got these opportunities. I suppose the question is, how do we make these things sticky to people? Because I think as much as we have change and we've got new products and we've got new opportunities to use tools, one of the things I've always talked about is how you make a process or a program or a solution sticky to individuals. And it doesn't matter if it's digital or whether it's analog. Kind of how would you encourage people to think about that?
I think it goes back to the why again. So why are we doing what we're doing? I mean, one of the big things that we have across the UK at the moment is a massive productivity issue.
Yep.
You know, we all know that we need to grow the economy. We need to look at, you're all business people, you all want to grow your businesses, you all want your businesses to be more successful. AI can assist you and work alongside you. It can make you more productive. I'm going to come back to Copilot again, just because there's been a lot of surveys on Copilot and the impact that it's having. So, you know, people who are using Copilot on a regular basis, they actually save about half an hour every day, which actually, when you add that up, is an awful lot of time. For me personally, I use AI now in my video meetings. I let people know that we're recording the video, and actually what it does is it does two things. So it means I don't have to waste time at the end sort of summarising the notes, but I can be present in the meeting in a way that I'm not always when I'm taking notes at the same time, because I'm conscious that the AI is doing it for me. It's going to summarise it. If I'm halfway through the meeting, I can't remember what John said, I press the button and it will tell me, you know, summarise what he said in, you know, in the last 10 minutes because I missed it, and it summarises it for me. So it keeps me present, it keeps me in the moment, and it helps me from a productivity point of view. So the real benefits to me.
By the way?
Yeah.
So it's Copilot actually, but
Is it Copilot?
yeah,
Sorry.
but yes, that does it as well.
It does exactly the same, and that's one of the things that we've seen is that because of when you're in the HR world, we have a lot of meetings with people.
Yep.
You've generally got to take notes, and you want something that's actually, you think, I want it to be accurate.
Yep.
And you may have noticed I have a mild accent at times, and sometimes recordings don't always help me. But I get the point with that, because it's the kind of, it alleviates that pressure, and actually it's that time of actually, the worst thing to do is actually type up your notes.
Yes, it's...
Understanding what you're doing with your notes and going, oh, Christ, what did I say?
And I think it's also, you know, when you're working with customers, it's immediate. So rather than going, right, okay, I'll put that on my to-do list, I might get to it on Friday, I finish the meeting, I press a button, and it sends that summary through for me. So it's got all of the information there. Other things it does is, because that particular version is integrated, the Copilot's integrated all the way across Microsoft 365, it also looks at various different other applications and pulls information from there that might be useful to me in the meeting that I'm having. For example, I was on holiday a couple of weeks ago, came back from holiday, and I said, Copilot, I'd actually said it as well, I didn't even write it, said, Copilot, can you tell me what I've missed? And it summarised for me, you know, the key points. It would have missed some stuff, because it's, you know, that's what it does. And I know that I have to sense check everything it does, but actually from a time-saving point of view, for me, it's huge. And very similar to the use case that you were talking about before, it brings stuff that's really important right up to the top. You know, it might have been at the beginning of my holiday where something came along, and it brings it to the top because it's important and it needs my attention.
Yeah, that's a really good example of, like, you know, you need to, user needs to see the value of using this tool, right? That's what you're, I mean, so in the media industry, like before Sony time, I was a journalist, and I was shooting a documentary in Thai, and you know, I shoot for the documentary, like even 50 minutes documentary, you have to shoot for probably 20 hours minimum. And what I do is come back to the home base, and you have to type what people say, and some of them are in Thai. And I was like stuck with typing all the things people said and asking the translator to translate the Thai for me. But nowadays, that's all replaced by this, you know, the machine and algorithm, which frees up the time, and the journalists see the value in it. And also that what that lets journalists to do is to focus on the more important things. So like writing up the script and the writing, you know, translating is not the thing that they, you know, if I were the, you know, I want my journalists to be focusing on the more interesting stuff, like creating the stories, focusing on the creatives. That's what I would want. And so, you know, users see the values and their management see the value, and that's where, you know, these new tools and the innovation sticks.
I think Hitomi's hit the nail on the head in terms of seeing the value of it. So people only see the value of it if they can use it. So when we went out and people looking at us like we had a moon on our head and asking, you know, footballers and managers to get into kit and trust us, there's no ball there, but you can kick in it. You've got to take a bit of a leap. They won't believe it until they see it in terms of that. In the same way, I was trying to explain to my son, Oliver, who's 13, he wanted to create this fantastic bike washing business with his mates. I said, let's run it through ChatGPT and see how many bikes you'll have to wash. And sure enough, when he went, and then he came back about 3 hours later with a different business plan for what they were going to do for another crazy idea. But he could instantly see the value in it, rather than he's going to go, I'm going to do this. And then I was going to go to Halfords and buy all the car washing and stuff, and then... so you're shortcutting the finding out.
we also going to wash all the bikes
I
as
would
well.
have probably ended up washing the bikes with it. Well, that's the point. It's kind of, when we're designing games, and we're going through a cycle in one at the moment, it needs to be that Boxing Day feeling where grandma can play this, as well as a super sporty dad or daughter can play it. We need to have the full spectrum, and it's the same for any innovative tool. If you want widespread adoption and you want people to really embrace it, you've got to be able to use it easily, and they've got to understand it, and they've got to really see the value in it. And that's, I think, the most key point I took from what you're saying.
Andrew?
Well, the bit I was just going to add there is there's a bit of a message there, apart from the bicycle business. I mean, it could have gone. It could have been okay. Could have been a good business.
I'll pass his card on to you.
But I suppose it's adequate testing. And for many, many years, many people who've been here, who've worked in technology for some time, testing is sometimes the hardest thing. How do you do representative testing? How do you test for the users that have different skill levels? And again, a part of my life involves working with a number of disability communities. And traditionally, we've not been great in the technology sector at supporting all inclusion in its truest sense. It's hard. It's hard to do on cross devices. It's hard to do on cross platforms, but it's definitely hard to do when we're trying to do representative populations. So for my side as well, the bit that I've found a real bonus tool to use some AI to do synthesized data. I can put in all of, not just the training that I talked about before, but for test data, I can create 1 million records. I can create scripts in alternatives in speeds that I can never have done. Would it ever have been useful for me to have done it manually? You know, we didn't, because it was just too effort-filled. So I think there's a leap that some of us have started to make, where actually we can test for scenarios that we've never been, well, we probably could have done, but we never put the effort in, because it was just a bit too
Wouldn't have been viable.
Wouldn't have been viable. You know, I need to test 400 different users, and therefore when the users see it, they're individuals. Again, 100 million footballers, I don't know how many there are of those, but in terms of main population segments, you can test better than you've ever been able to test before. So yeah, up your testing.
Amazing. And one final quick question. I can see people are moving over there to come up here. Just quick answer. What should people be looking out for? What's the emerging trends that you're interested about at the moment? Marie?
Gosh. So technology at the moment is moving so fast. I think that's the big thing. You know, we're talking about AI today, but we've got other things that are coming down the line. So things like quantum computing are going to start to have an impact. But with everything, it's about the business case. It's about why you're doing what you're doing and what impact it's going to have on your business. For me, if there's any takeaway, and I say this at the end of anything, is educate yourself, understand what's there and understand what's coming, because it is a massive change, bigger than there's ever been before.
Adam?
It'd be easy for me to say what we're doing, but for me, it's don't turn your back on the traditional skills. If you haven't got traditional arts, because I come from an architecture background, if you haven't got traditional skills, then you're not going to get the most out of any new tools coming out, because you're just thinking that's going to be a sticking plaster and solve it. So that core understanding of key principles of design, economics, have got to be there first.
Amazing. Hitomi?
Well, of course, AI, and also real-time, like live events and engagement. Also, sustainability is key things for our industry as well, so that's something that we're looking at.
Marvelous. Andrew?
Yeah, for me, it's actually high-performance compute. I think in health and life sciences, when you're working with genomes and other large amounts of data, you need to process quickly, and a country's worth of computers in a small available interface. Wow, high-performance compute, one to watch.
Amazing, thank you. Thank you very much all for your time. Thanks for your insights, it's been fabulous. I was going to say, can we give a round of applause for this panel today? It's been absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
Ready to go now. I think we're being shuffled off.